you imagine a little stick man and he has a little river of energy running through him, that's your health. And what happens through the years, we get suppressed emotions and stored traumas. So think of those traumas and emotions like sticks and boulders in your river. So then your health is not as optimum. For children, they struggle to focus. We have maybe anxiety. So what we do is a gentle touch therapy. We're connecting with the nervous system to take the nervous system from fight or flight, where we have anger outbursts, anxiety, burnout, back down to rest and digest, where people feel happier, calmer, lighter.
If you played a video game which we just had to get from point A to point B and there's no obstacle, there's no challenge, there's no bad guy, it'd be a really boring video game, you know? And that's why the more challenging a video game is, the more you feel satisfied when you've been able to overcome the obstacles and, you know, get to the objective of the game.
When children and adults are carrying trauma and suppressed emotions, they're not their authentic self, they're not their best self. And by the work that we do, helping them release these traumas and emotions, you actually start to see who that person is underneath all of that, and it's just magical to see that.
Zims, tell us about our guest today.
Yes, of course, absolutely. I am so excited. We have with us Janelle Houston. She's the CEO of the Tree of Hope. She is a cranial sacral therapist and infinite flow energy healer. Originally from Scotland, she has been residing in Dubai for 17 years. Janelle's journey to healing began with a childhood dream of healing others. From studying psychology to becoming a Pilates instructor and then delving into Reiki, theta healing, and then cranial sacral therapy. She found her calling in assisting people with releasing trauma and finding peace in their bodies, mind, and spirits. Janelle's passion for helping children shines through very brightly as she believes in nurturing them today to create a brighter tomorrow. And this is where we connected in 2020. Through the Love Academy, which is my nonprofit initiative that supports emotional well-being of children. And since then, she is pretty much the person I refer my clients to when they're looking for support with their children's emotional well-being. Because quite honestly, she's a child whisperer and such a godsend for parents who need help in this area. So welcome, Janelle.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Janelle. It's great to meet you. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Zimmy mentioned that you're from Scotland and you've been living in Dubai for 17 years. That's a little bit of a weather difference. What's the experience been like for you?
So I was born in Brunei, and I blame my parents, for starting life there, because I do not like the cold. So I guess I moved back to the heat.
Nice.
Right.
I used to work for somebody that was from Scotland, and he used to love the heat as well, especially in the summers when it was, you know, in the high 40s or whatever. I'd be dying in the heat, and he would love it. And my wife is from Bulgaria, and she also absolutely misses the Dubai heat and the weather.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that grow up in the cold really appreciate the heat, definitely.
Zims also mentioned cranial sacral healing. Tell us what that's all about.
So cranial sacral therapy originally has roots in osteopathy. When you go to an osteopath, they will do what they call biomechanical cranial. So it's a little bit more physical and a bit more manipulative. The training that I've done is called biodynamic. So we're basically working with what we call the breath of life. So I love to draw diagrams for people to explain things. But if you imagine a little stick man and he has a little river of energy running through him, that's your health. And what happens through the years, we get suppressed emotions and stored traumas. So think of those traumas and emotions like sticks and boulders in your river. So then your health is not as optimum. For children, they struggle to focus. We have maybe anxiety. So what we do is a gentle touch therapy. We're connecting with the nervous system to take the nervous system from fight or flight, where we have anger outbursts, anxiety, burnout, back down to rest and digest, where people feel happier, calmer, lighter.
Wow, that sounds amazing. What does a session look like? I understand the energies and how they align with the human body and all of that, but if there's certain things getting stored up or getting out of alignment, like what does a session look like that you work on fixing those?
So when somebody comes, we would start with an intro session, so I understand the history and what's been going on. And then the actual session involves lying on a massage table, fully clothed, and I basically will hold their ankles, their sacrum, their neck, head, shoulders, and really it's connecting to the nervous system, and we're trained to feel blocks, places where the energy is not flowing in the system, to help to release that. So when something is not flowing, you can feel there's a stagnancy there. And then what we start to feel, we work with what we call potency, your vitality, and we feel it like this winding up of energy, and then it disperses to the areas of the body that need a little bit of help with health.
So interesting. And Zim's mentioned that you're a child whisperer. So can you share some stories without naming names, obviously, and sharing any of those details? Some interesting cases maybe that came across.
I mean, child whisperer. Thanks, Zimmy. I think it's important to give a bit of background to answer this question. That the reason I got into this work is my son, I now know, has severe ADHD, and he was my first child. So had he been my second, I would have known from day one that something was going on. But everybody around me kept saying everything's, well, I don't like the word normal, but for lack of a better word, everything's normal, everything's normal. And I started saying, well, if everything's so normal, I'm not coping because I'm really struggling. So fast forward 5 years, we finally got the diagnosis of severe ADHD. And the only time this boy was not screaming while awake in the car was after a session of cranial sacral therapy. It was literally magic. It blew me away. And I never realized that you could study it. I thought you had to be a physio or an osteopath or have that sort of experience. And because I knew I wanted to do more to support people, when I studied Reiki and Theta healing, I loved them, but they weren't quite what I was looking for. And then when I went for the intro talk of cranial, it was like my soul came home. There was just such a sort of sense of familiarity. So to give you some examples, so what I've gone through with my son, I realize has prepared me to see these children that are coming to me, whether they have an official diagnosis of ADHD or not. They're labeled naughty, they're labeled, the kids that don't focus, they don't listen. And I see them, I see them on a soul level. I see them in their purest form. And a lot of the kids I work with will say to their parents, Janelle just gets me. Janelle understands me, and I'll have parents bring their children and say they won't talk to you, they won't look at you, they won't lie on the bed, they won't let you touch them, and then the child jumps up on the bed. So one of the, for me, most profound cases too that I've had recently, last year I had a young girl who was 11 when she started with me. For 2 years she had been writing from the age of 9 in her journal how she was going to take her life. And the father came to me, and after 2 sessions there was a massive shift, but they didn't believe it was from the sessions. They didn't quite believe it was from the sessions, so they stopped coming, and unfortunately she started to slip back. So then they started coming a bit more regularly, and now I probably see her maybe once every 6 weeks, and every time I see her, I ask her, do those dark thoughts come? Not anymore. And I told her, I said, when you walked into my room, you were like the energy was a dark cloud. I said, and when I see you now, you're just a ray of sunshine, and that's really the truth. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's beautiful. That's amazing.
Bless you. Yeah, that is so heartening to know that you provide that for children, and you hold that space so well for them, you know, like the reason that I actually stopped working with children, until 2 years ago, I did used to, but thankfully you came into the scene. And so I don't feel so bad about that choice. But the reason why I stopped was because I I think because of not being a mom, you know, like how you felt better suited for this because you had that experience. But also, I seem to have a very soft spot for kids, and I carry their pain with me all through the day, all through the night. And it doesn't happen with adults. Like you can literally, as an adult, come with a very heavy story, and I'll still be able to, you know, hold that space with empathy, but not absorbing it. But with children, I don't have those boundaries at all. And I realize that we have to, you know, be mindful of these things. And if we are not able to handle or work with all ages and everything, so we have to give ourselves that, you know, like that's also kindness to ourselves. So I decided that I can't do this. I was so grateful that I found you so soon after that. And so it's been pretty much seamless for me because clients who trust me want me to work with their kids, obviously. And then I say, but I trust Janelle. Like, please try her out. And of course, every time I hear such amazing feedback from them, like, thank you for guiding us to her. She is amazing. She's magical. The kids are happy and calm and, you know, in such a more balanced place that they're a joy to be around. So parents are actually spending more time with their kids and enjoying that time as well, rather than feeling like I have to kind of manage these children. They're actually, you know, taking joy from it. So yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, that means the world to me, Zimmy, and I really appreciate the trust. I don't take it lightly. But you know what I've realized, and I'm sure it's the same with the work you do, Zimmy, that when children and adults are carrying trauma and suppressed emotions, they're not their authentic self. They're not their best self. And by the work that we do, helping them release these traumas and emotions, you actually start to see who that person is underneath all of that. And it's just magical to see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You said you had another story as well.
Yeah, this one blew me away. So she was 5 when she started working with me. So I think she was 4 when this happened. So was on holiday last year. And as many of us do as children, we think we see a shark in the sea. And it caused such intense trauma, she then developed a stutter. And for the last year, her parents were taking her everywhere to try and fix it because, you know, that it was impacting her self-esteem and confidence and being able to make friends and learning, and nothing made a difference. And when they came to me, cranial can sometimes be a little bit like homeopathy. It can make things worse before better. So I did say to the parents, the stutter might get worse before better, don't panic. So after the first session that happened, she really didn't speak to me in the first session. Now she's 5. And then when I saw her the second time, every time she would speak more and more. And I just saw her this weekend, and she literally didn't have a stutter for the whole session. Her mum and dad are like, their minds are blown. And she said to her mum, I think she could feel it coming back, and she said to her mum, I need to go see Janelle. My brain is working faster than my mouth. You know, and I just think these kids are so aware, you know, to be able to articulate that, way more evolved than we were at that age.
Absolutely. Yes, so true. But that's beautiful. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's phenomenal. It seems like such a simple idea, and it seems like such a simple thing that, you know, your energies in your body need to be in alignment all throughout with your mind as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, true. It's like for stutterers specifically, you realize that they don't stutter when they sing. So you know that it's something to do with the nervous system. It's not necessarily a speech impediment. It is an anxiety. It is when your nervous system is regulated, when you're singing, it doesn't happen. So that's where I figured that, yes, you're right, Nick. This is something that is really good to know, that energy work helps with that, because I used to help them just kind of regulate their nervous system and slow down. And like this little girl was saying, that my brain is working faster, you know, and it needs to be in tune with that. Yeah. And also, I want to say that even if children don't have a specific thing that is bothering them, let's say, there is a lot of pressure on them. There is a lot of demand, especially now with a lot more activities and a lot more extracurricular things, and, and to fit in, and social media coming in to create a lot more pressure. It's really important for us, I think, to point out that it doesn't have to be something that is bothering them so much, but energy work will help regardless, right?
Yeah, very much so. So when people come to work with me, again, because I think most people like to see a visual to explain what's happening, and I really like kids to understand what's happening with them and then the work that we're going to do. So I would draw a little stick person with a bubble around it and explain about their energy field, because the majority, if not all, of the children I'm working with are sensitive. They're empaths. They're walking around
Yes.
all day, every day, picking up everybody's emotions. So then I draw a glass around the bubble and explain to them, all day you're picking up these energies, and then you come home, you ask for a cheese sandwich, your mum brings you a chicken sandwich, and it's this eruption. And I'll tell them, I'm sure even you, when you calm down, you think, that really wasn't a big deal. Why did I make that such a big deal? And so for me, everything starts with energy. If you walk in a room and somebody's angry, that's energy. If you allow that energy to come in your field, it becomes an emotion. If we don't clear out that emotion, it becomes a physical disorder. So I combine the cranial with energy healing. So I work on clearing their energy fields as well to allow them to feel lighter.
Hi, everyone. We just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for being here with us at the Epiphany Dialogues, where curiosity meets consciousness. If you're enjoying this episode, please hit the like button, follow, subscribe, and share with like-minded people.
And you're also welcome to join our conversation. If you have an epiphany to share, please leave us a comment or email us. Details are in the description below. And with that, back to the episode. That makes complete sense, and I think that that's a beautiful analogy that you've been expressing, and I feel a lot of the world could use that right now, because what you see on social media, the amount of negativity that's out there, and the kind of things that people say and do, it's not really a reflection of what has happened in that moment, but it's all of that negative energy that's been building up in people over time based on what's happening with them in their lives and what's happening in the world right now, I feel, right?
I was just going to say that, I did an event for some women that are supporting, a cause in the world at the moment that's causing a lot of heartbreak, and these women are struggling. And we were saying at the end of it, if everybody in the world could have something like Cranial, we wouldn't have war. It just wouldn't happen, because people, we've got so many people living in a state of fear, anger, jealousy, in ego, wanting power, and it would just alleviate all of that. And it's so simple.
Absolutely. I think at least we are getting there. We're moving closer to that, with so many people opening up to energy healing and so many other modalities. I think it's the highest that we've ever been. So that's a good start. But coming off of that comment, Janelle, I think it flows very well into my question, which is, what is an epiphany that you've had that changed how you look at the world, and how it has changed the course of your life?
Such a powerful question. So, yeah, I've done a lot of healing work on myself over the last 7 years, and I've had a lot. But the biggest one for me, which sounds so obvious, but I don't think it is for most people, is that the world is not fair. So when I had that realization, probably about 2 years ago, when I have clients now going through something, I will say to them, the world is not fair. What are you going to do about it? So for example, when I started my healing journey, I grew up in a situation where my dad would give a lot more to my siblings, to his second wife. So I was continually living in that, this is not fair, waiting for him to do the right thing and to be fair by me with his time and whatnot. And then even with my ex-husband, it's not fair that he's not coming to see the children enough. It's not fair that this is happening. And then when I had that light bulb moment, we don't come here for the world to be fair. We come here to learn. And actually, if the world was fair, our souls wouldn't learn, they wouldn't grow, they wouldn't evolve. In a healing session, I flew a timeline of where the world, there was no duality. Everything was just happy and lovely. And wow, it was very boring. Sounds terrible. But, you know, as they say, there's no light without dark. And, you know, I think when we have this sort of sense of entitlement that the world is fair, it's very disempowering. For me, it's not coming from a negative place saying the world's not fair. It's coming from a very empowering place. My husband's not going to give me the money, or my ex-husband give me the money that I need to provide for my family in the way that I think they deserve. So what did I do? I worked really hard in learning about business to be able to provide for my own family, and I feel great for it. And now I help other women learn to do the same.
That's absolutely amazing. And you're so right, both in terms of if everything was perfectly fine, it would be really boring. That's a thought that I've had as well, is if we came to this, you know, I draw an analogy between life and video games. Is if you played a video game which was you just had to get from point A to point B and there's no obstacle, there's no challenge, there's no bad guy, it'd be a really boring video game, you know. And that's why the more challenging a video game is, the more you feel satisfied when you've been able to overcome the obstacles and, you know, get to the objective of the game. So I completely agree with that.
When did this come up for you, Janelle, and how long has it taken you to embrace it in a positive manner, in an empowering manner for yourself?
So I would say it was probably the year I turned 40, and they do say that 40 is a magical number. You know, I think you really start to stand in your power. And I was doing a lot of healing work. So it was in one session that learning came to me. But it wasn't a case of that learning came and I embodied it. It was sort of every time thereafter, oh, but that's happening and that's not fair. Okay, well, what's my role in that? How can I take a more empowered stance for this? I really like this analogy that I use a lot with my clients. And, you know, I had, for example, a lady that came and her husband cheated. And I said, I want you to think that you're walking at the top of a cliff and you trip over a boulder and you fall off that cliff and you're falling, but suddenly your wings come out and you can fly. Are you going to look back at that boulder, shout and swear at the boulder, or are you going to fly and be so grateful for what happened because now you're stepping into your power?
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I just wanted to follow that up with how has that opened up life for you? How have your wings taken you further in your heights, and does the world feel more embracing of you and your gifts now?
I know, had I not gone through the hardship that I've gone through in life, that I would not be helping the number of people that I am helping now. There are very, you know, if a client comes to me, their husband cheated, I've gone through that. A neurodivergent child, I've gone through that. Black sheep of the family, most of the family don't speak to you, I've gone through that. So yes, it was super hard, but as a result of that, I can really hold space from a place of truly understanding, and then saying to these people when they're in the thick of it, it's okay, you know. And again, I use the analogy as well about the arrow being pulled back, because when we're on a healing journey, just life in general, we always have to go back to go forward. So it's the same as the arrow has to go back to be able to project forward. So anytime somebody's in that moment, it's really hard. But now when I have those moments, I understand I've come to this place of being held back, so that then I'm ready to shoot forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for expressing that. It's very important, I think, for a lot of our viewers and listeners to be reminded of that in case they're in that phase of being pulled back.
For me, one of the biggest things in my journey that's really given me peace is the understanding, and this is my belief, that we are an eternal soul and we come here to learn. So sometimes there are people going through really hard times on the planet, and there are people that life seems to flow and everything's easy. And of course we can go into a place of jealousy and resentment, but when we can take a step back and fly above that and understand on a soul level that we all chose our journey for this lifetime, for what our soul needed to learn, that really, it's brought me a lot more peace for my life and my situation, and it's helped a lot of my clients as well. So that would be a message that I would really want to share quite widely with people.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I always look at these things, and if you consider that the soul is eternal and that we are living a lot of experiences, even if you don't necessarily believe in past lives as such, but the soul as a consciousness is always alive, and it's picking up a lot of experiences of lifetimes that resonate with its soul purpose and its soul path. And you realize that, yeah, it's some lifetimes are actually rest lifetimes, and you're recovering from something that has been very, very challenging. And so the way that I kind of always on my journey, when I saw someone, because like you, I've had a challenging childhood and a challenging adulthood, for a while until I started healing. And I used to look at people who had a normal family, like just a mom and a dad and kids, like, which is so common, right? But when you don't have it, it looks like, wow, how lucky and how unfair that I don't have that, or whatever it is. But as I started growing up, I started recognizing this whole idea of the soul and the consciousness, and I started showing myself, and if I ever felt that feeling of envy or just, unfairness, I started telling myself that, yeah, at some point I have been that, or at some point I will be that. And so it helps me to just bless them for where they are. If they feel like I'm judging them for something, like they're not, let's say, evolved enough, or, taking, empowerment in their life, or whatever it might be, I tell myself I was that once, not necessarily in this lifetime, but I know, because I can see it. I'm aware of it, so that means I have experienced it at some time. And when I see people who, let's say, have something easier or something better, and I say, I'm sure I've had it, I'm sure I will have it. And that helps to kind of reduce that separation between people and reduce that sense of unfairness, because you say, okay, well, this might be my life of action, and this might be my life of transcending above certain limiting beliefs that will help me a lot and let me enjoy the good parts of this life, because there always are some, even if life is, let's say, unfair. So yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. This is very, very important.
And just to add to that, Zimmy, something that's brought me a lot of peace as well is nobody has everything. So if you have somebody that's super wealthy, possibly they have health issues, or somebody who's got the perfect husband maybe couldn't have children, or somebody that's got a really sick child. So there's nobody that has everything perfect. I've not met one person on this planet that you can say they've got all the boxes ticked, and it's aligned with what you're saying, that we're all here to learn what we need to learn.
Now I know why we're struggling financially is because my wife has the perfect husband, so she had to struggle at some aspect in her life.
There we go.
Mystery solved.
I have to ask both of you, in terms of this idea of our souls coming to this world to experience something, to learn something, there must be some value then to also experiencing and learning from negative emotions like jealousy, for example, and envy and all of that. Maybe you overcome those over time and you learn to see things differently or process things differently. But do you think that there's some value to experiencing negative emotions as well?
100%. I mean, for me, because we're the planet of duality, without sadness, you wouldn't know joy. But also, if we look at the map of consciousness, which we all vibrate at a frequency, loosely, at the bottom you have fear, and at the top you have love. And everybody has a number that they vibrate at. And let's say you come in at a frequency of jealousy, And your learning in this lifetime is to master that. So then you'll leave maybe in a place of courage. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
Love that.
I completely agree with that. No notes.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, Janelle, when we come to the close of the episode, we ask all of our guests the same question, and we have that question for you today as well. If you had a time machine and you were able to go back to any point in your life when it might have been at a crossroads or when you might have been struggling at any age, what would you tell that past version of yourself?
So I would tell myself, you've got this. You are the creator of your reality. You have written everything that's happening. Nothing has been done to you. It's been done for you, and it's only going to get better. And you are absolutely guided, loved, and support. You are never alone.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, as somebody who believes that the past and the present and the future all exist at the same time, you just told your past self that and gave yourself that courage to push through and get to where you are today. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janelle, for spending time with us. We are so grateful to have you on the Epiphany Dialogues.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you both.
Zims, I will see you next time.
Absolutely.